Was it you? Was it you? Did you save my daughter?
I saved your daughter. The stranger was a homeless man. The mother was a millionaire. Their meeting shattered her guarded, rich world completely. Because of his kindness, that changed everything. My phone shook on my big desk, showing a number I didn't know, like a red danger sign. I almost let it ring. Rich people don't talk to strangers. But a weird, awful feeling told me I had to answer it right now. The second a rough voice said my name, Mrs. Vance, my heart jumped with fear. It was about Chloe, my daughter, and the voice just said, "She fell down. I have her. Come quickly." I froze in my chair, and the blood rushed out of my face. I felt cold and weak. All my money, all my power, all the big business I controlled. It meant nothing at all right now. Only one thing mattered, Chloe. "Who is this?" I asked, but my voice was shaking. "Where is she right now?" The man didn't answer right away. There was just silence on the line, and my heart beat against my ribs like crazy. Then, his rough voice got a little bit softer and more serious. "It doesn't matter who I am, Mrs. Vance. Just come fast. She really needs you now." He hung up right after that. My hand was shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I stood up fast, and my chair scraped loudly across the floor. My assistant looked up, scared by the sudden panic in my eyes. I shouted, "Get the car! Right now!" In a few seconds, my fast, black car was ready outside. I tried to call my nanny, but there was no answer. My mind started thinking of bad things, imagining a monster. The man's voice was rough, like he had a broken throat, but it sounded strangely calm. I thought about his strange hands being close to my child, and I felt pure terror and a hot rage at the same time. But I also felt something else in his voice. He sounded urgent, not threatening. He sounded worried, not evil. I prayed that I was not driving into a nightmare. The city lights went by in a big blur as the car drove faster than usual. My mind was racing, full of worry and love. Chloe, my sweet 6-year-old daughter, is everything to me. She is small and very trusting, full of simple life and light. I have spent years building big companies and winning against my enemies in business. But being Chloe's mom is the only thing I am truly proud of. The idea of losing her, or her being hurt badly, felt like something was tearing at my chest, a real pain that made it hard to breathe. I kept my hands closed tightly, looking straight ahead, wanting the car to go even faster. Everything outside the window was just noise and speed until the driver finally spoke, his voice calm. "We are here, ma'am." The car stopped very fast near a dark, narrow side street on the poor side of the city. I never go to this part of town. It's full of broken buildings and dark shadows. I didn't wait for the car to stop completely. I quickly opened the door and jumped out. My shoes made a loud sound on the cracked, broken ground as I rushed forward quickly. The air here was wet and smelled old. Then I saw them under a weak, flickering streetlight. Chloe was there. She was curled into a tiny ball, very pale, and not moving at all. Next to her was the man. He was wearing clothes that were old and ripped. He had long, messy hair that fell over his face, and a dirty beard with some gray in it. His hands, which looked hard and dirty, were gently cradling Chloe's small head, keeping it steady. He had even put his own coat, which was old and thin, over her small shoulders. Beside him, a small, thin dog, a small terrier, was lying down but watching me closely. Its eyes never left me. I stopped right where I was, my breath caught in my throat. This was not the evil person I had expected. This was something completely different, something confusing. "Get away from her!" I shouted, rushing forward, my fear now turning into a yell. The man slowly looked up. His eyes were clear and sharp, but they were strangely calm. His voice, that same rough voice from the phone, was a low sound. "She just collapsed," he said simply. "I kept her warm. Don't move her too quickly." His simple way of speaking made me stop. He wasn't begging me to leave him alone. He wasn't trying to fight. He was just steady, telling me what happened. I dropped to my knees next to Chloe, pushing her hair away from her cold forehead. "Baby, I am here," I whispered. A wave of relief washed over me when I felt her skin was warm. Chloe moved a little bit, opening her lips slightly. Tears started to burn in my eyes, but I quickly turned my anger back to the man. "What did you do to her?" I asked him fiercely. He looked right at me, not scared at all. Nothing, he said. She just fell down right in front of me. Maybe her sugar was low. I gave her my coat to help. I blinked my eyes, surprised by what he said. His coat, which was dirty, was tightly wrapped around Chloe. It was much warmer than her light jacket. The dog, Buddy, made a soft, worried sound and pushed its nose against Chloe's arm as if it was worried too. My anger slowly faded away, and I felt foolish and embarrassed. The real picture in front of me didn't match the awful fear I had rushed here with. Yes, he was a stranger in old ripped clothes, Marcus, but he was protecting her, not hurting her. I heard the loud sound of sirens coming closer. My driver had done his job and called an ambulance already. I held Chloe close, but I watched Marcus carefully. He was gently moving her to a safer spot, lifting her small head a little to help her breathe. His hands were very dirty, but his touch was very careful and precise, like he knew exactly what he was doing. I couldn't stop staring at him. "Who are you?" I whispered to him. He just moved his shoulders up and down. "Doesn't matter," he said. "Just someone who was right here." His eyes, even though they looked tired from lack of sleep, had no hate in them, only deep concern. The ambulance finally pulled up, its lights flashing everywhere. The doctors rushed out and quickly put Chloe onto a long bed with wheels. I followed, but I kept looking back at Marcus. He stood still and quiet, one hand on Buddy's head, watching everything, making sure she was safe. A doctor asked me, "Who found her first, ma'am?" I thought for a moment, my strong pride fighting against what was right. Then I pointed at Marcus. He did. The doctor gave a quick, respectful nod to Marcus. For a brief moment, I saw something in the man's eyes. Surprise, maybe even a small thank you that I had told the truth. Before he looked away quickly. Inside the ambulance, I held Chloe's small hand tightly. The doctors checked her and told me the good news. It was probably just a sudden drop in her blood sugar. The fast, strong feeling in my body started to fade, leaving me shaking. But my thoughts kept going back to the man outside. I had expected terrible danger. Instead, I found a quiet helper. For the first time in many years, I, Eleanor Vance, the strong boss who never shook, felt totally lost, like the ground was moving beneath me. The rest of the story proceeds with the established plot, now with the understanding that Eleanor is reacting to the rescue of her vulnerable 6-year-old child, making her change of heart even more profound. The moment of total silence after the ambulance left felt like a big loud signal in my life. I couldn't stop seeing Marcus standing there, his old coat wrapped around my daughter, protecting her more than all the security I paid for. I realized that my wealth had given me a fake sense of safety. Real safety, the kind that matters most, had come from the kind heart of a poor man. This idea was very unsettling and confusing to me, the big CEO who always had answers. I spent the night staring at the hospital ceiling, thinking about how wrong my judgments usually were about people. My whole world was built on judging people's worth by their bank accounts, but Marcus had proven my entire system was completely flawed. His simple act of help was the strongest thing I had ever seen in my life. I thought about his tired but honest eyes, and how he never asked for anything in return, not even a quick thanks. That true lack of wanting anything from me was louder than any big demand for money could have been. It made me feel small and weak, and I didn't like that feeling at all. I was used to being the one in control, the one who gave out the favors. Now I was the one who owed a huge, life-changing debt, and I didn't know how to pay it off. It wasn't about money, it was about human kindness, and I felt I was running low on that resource. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed Chloe was fine and just needed to rest. I stayed by her side, brushing her hair as she slept quietly. But when Chloe finally woke up, the first thing she asked about wasn't me, her mom. "Where is the man?" she asked weakly. I tried not to frown. "What man are you talking about?" "The one with the dog," she whispered, her voice very quiet. "He covered me with his coat. He stayed right there until you came, Mom." A strange, tight feeling came into my throat. I tried to look calm. "He's probably outside, maybe." Chloe held my hand tight, begging me with her eyes. "I want to thank him, please, Mom." Later that night, after Chloe was finally asleep again, I went outside quickly. The first snow of the year had started to fall, dusting the hospital steps. And there he was, the man, Marcus, sitting quietly on the curb. His dog, Buddy, was curled up tightly at his feet, like a furry shadow. He hadn't left the area. I went up to him slowly. "Why are you still here?" I asked him in the cold, still night. He looked up, his face calm. "Wanted to be sure she was okay," he said simply. I folded my arms, feeling cold despite my warm coat. "You could have left hours ago." He gave that small, familiar shoulder movement. "Could have, but I didn't want to." For a moment, the silence between us felt heavy with falling snow and many questions. I looked at him closely. My strong business instinct screamed that he was dangerous because of his messy look. But nothing in his steady eyes matched that idea. They were honest, kind, and very steady. It made me feel more unsure than any threat of fighting ever could. "Do you have a name?" I asked finally. The man scratched his beard. "Marcus?" he mumbled, looking back down at his dog. I slowly nodded. "Marcus, well, thank you for what you did." He quickly shook his head. "Don't thank me. Anyone would have done it." I almost laughed out loud. "No, Marcus," I thought sadly. "Not anyone." I thought about all the people who walked past him every day, never looking down. He had nothing, yet he had given the little he did have, warmth, time, help, to my daughter. Marcus stood up slowly, pulling his old coat tighter around himself. Buddy wagged his tail, brushing snow off the ground. "She'll be fine now, that's the important thing." He turned to leave, walking into the dark night. My voice quickly stopped him. "Wait." He paused, looking back at me. For a second, I almost asked him the real question. Why did you care so much? Instead, I said something I didn't plan. "If you ever need something, anything at all, just find me." I took one of my smooth business cards from my pocket and held it out to him. Marcus stared at the card, then at my face. Slowly, he reached out and took it. He carefully folded the card and put it deep into his pocket. Back inside the hospital, I leaned against the clean wall, feeling shaken and strange. Why did I give him my card? I had never done that for anyone outside my world, but something about his quiet, strong presence, his simple honesty, stayed with me. Chloe's words came back again. "He stayed until you came." I realized I had judged him too quickly based only on what he looked like. Maybe having a lot of money and power was not the only way to be strong. The next morning, Chloe was much better. She asked again, "Did he stay long?" I nodded, telling her the truth. "Yes." "He stayed almost until the sun came up?" Chloe smiled gently, a certain look on her face. "Then he's a good man, Mom." I gently smoothed her hair, feeling that strange tight feeling in my throat again. "Maybe he is a good man," I whispered. For the first time in my life, I wasn't totally sure about everything, and that feeling made me more uneasy than any fight in a business meeting ever could. For the next few days, I returned to my business. I sat in my big office and signed papers, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. I saw Marcus's steady eyes when I closed my own. I kept thinking about the moment I found Chloe wrapped in his coat, his dog nearby. My life had always been very clean, very controlled, and easy to predict, but now it felt like there were small cracks in my perfect world. Through those cracks, something human, something real, was slipping into my life. Meanwhile, Marcus went back to his life on the side streets. He kept my card deep in his pocket. He didn't know why he hadn't thrown it away. He didn't trust my world. He knew that rich people used and then forgot men like him very easily. Yet he couldn't forget Chloe's pale face or her quiet, relieved smile. For once, he hadn't felt like nobody. Buddy pushed his nose against his hand, wagging his tail happily. Marcus sighed, pulling his coat tighter. "I guess we did something good, boy." Days passed by quickly. The snow got deeper and the nights became harsher. Marcus often wondered if I had already forgotten him completely. But one cold evening, as he huddled next to his fire barrel, a fast black car pulled up. The window slowly rolled down, and my voice called out softly, "Marcus!" He was very surprised. Buddy barked once, then started wagging his tail fast. I stepped out of the car. "We need to talk about some things," I said, looking straight at him. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something start deep inside him. It felt like curiosity, maybe even a little bit of hope. I, Eleanor Vance, the big boss, was standing in his dirty street, cold but not scared. Our two very different worlds should never have met, but they had. As the snow fell around us, Marcus realized this was not the end of a strange meeting. It felt like the beginning of something much more unexpected. The air was very cold as I stood in the alley. My warm coat felt thin against the wind. Marcus stood up slowly, his hand resting on Buddy's head. "Why are you really here?" he asked, sounding more curious than angry now. I stopped. The words, "because I owe you," felt too simple and cheap. "Because my daughter owes you," I said finally. "And I owe you too." Marcus shook his head immediately. "You don't owe me anything, Mrs. Vance." His voice was certain and final. But I have listened to people lie my whole life. I knew the sound of the truth when I heard it. And this was true. I took a slow step closer to him. "You could have just walked away," I said. "Most people would have done that." Marcus gave his small, usual shoulder movement. "Most people did walk away. I chose not to." I looked at him, feeling strange. For years, I had only known people who acted when they could get money or power. Marcus had acted with nothing to gain. I felt a strange heat in my chest, a feeling that was new and uncomfortable. "Come with me," I said suddenly. Marcus blinked. "Where?" "Anywhere but here. You can't stay in this terrible weather." His eyes hardened quickly. "I have stayed in worse cold than this." I sighed loudly. I was not used to people saying no to me. "I am not asking you this time," I said, using my strong business voice. Marcus smiled slightly, almost finding it funny. "You are always used to getting what you want, right?" I stood straighter. "Yes, usually." Marcus's look softened. "Not this time." Buddy barked loudly, breaking the sudden tension. I looked at the dog, then back at Marcus, trying a different way. "At least let me buy you a hot meal," I asked. Marcus paused. I heard his stomach make a loud sound, giving him away. He sighed. "Fine," he agreed. "One meal, that's it." I nodded quickly, hiding how relieved I felt. Together, we walked toward my car. Marcus moved stiffly, like every step was hard. Buddy trotted happily, not knowing about the strange meeting between his owner and the rich boss. Inside the car, the differences were huge. Soft seats, great warmth, a clean smell. It was like a different world from the alley. Marcus sat uncomfortably, looking at the windows. Buddy curled up at his feet, happy for the heat. I sat across from him, keeping my strong posture. "You saved my daughter's life," I said quietly. "I never forget a debt." Marcus's jaw got tight. It wasn't about a debt to me. His words were simple and cut sharp. I felt strange, like a student being corrected by a teacher. We went to a quiet, bright restaurant far from the busy city center. We sat in a small booth. I quickly ordered my food without looking at the menu. Marcus looked at every single item on the list, like he was trying to remember them all. When the food came, he ate slowly, enjoying every single bite. Buddy ate the food I gave him under the table. I watched Marcus quietly, seeing the great care he took with his meal. It wasn't the rush of someone starving, but the quiet gratefulness of a person who understands the true value of food. I couldn't remember the last time I ate a meal without looking at my phone, rushing to get to the next business meeting. "Tell me about your life," I said finally. Marcus stopped, his fork in his hand. "Not much to say, Mrs. Vance." I leaned in closer. "Try me. I have time to listen." His eyes looked up, steady but careful. "I worked in building houses. Before that, a good life. Then I lost the job, lost my house, lost everything good. It all happens faster than you think." He went back to eating. My chest felt tight. I had always thought poverty was a slow, long fall. Hearing it this way, sudden and mean, scared me. "And the dog?" I asked softly. A small, real smile came to Marcus's face. He explained that he had saved a lot of money, planning to open his own small business for fixing things. He spoke clearly about the small details. A big building company went bankrupt. They didn't pay him for months of work, and suddenly, his savings were gone. The bank took his small house very quickly. "The legal words and papers are like a big, fast wave," he explained, looking down at his hands. "They drown you before you can even stand up straight." The way he described it, it sounded like a sudden natural disaster, not a failure that he had caused himself. I felt a cold dread when I thought about how close I, Eleanor Vance, always felt to the financial world. I was the one who benefited from those fast, harsh waves. The sudden realization that my perfect world was built on the pain of people like Marcus made my throat feel dry. I wanted to apologize for the whole system, but I knew those words would sound fake and empty coming from me. So, I just listened, which was harder than talking or yelling or signing important papers. "Found him starving behind some trash," he said. "I guess we saved each other, really." Buddy's tail thumped on the floor as if to say, "Yes, that's right." I felt my throat get tight. I had built huge companies, but I had never heard love described so simply. I was sleeping in a big tunnel. He was just a puppy, skinny and very weak, trying to eat some dry trash. He was shaking so hard. Marcus paused, stroking the dog gently under the table, and Buddy sighed happily. I gave him the only thing I had left, which was half of a cold, stale piece of bread. He ate it all, then he just crawled under my arm and fell asleep, Marcus said, looking down at his friend. He didn't care about my money or my clothes. He just needed warmth and food. That's when I knew I couldn't give up myself. If this small thing could fight that hard to live, so could I. Buddy's tale of salvation was so simple and powerful that it made me tear up a little bit. I realized that in saving the dog, Marcus had, in a way, saved his own kind heart from the coldness of the streets. "You could have sold him for money, or just left him," I whispered, thinking about how cruel the streets can be. Marcus's smile disappeared. "Not everything is for sale in the world." The words hit me hard. I looked down, ashamed of how much I had forgotten that simple truth in my rich, busy world. Hours passed. We didn't talk much, but the silence was not uncomfortable. When I said I had to drive him back, Marcus shook his head. "Just drop me anywhere. It doesn't matter to me." But it did matter. I didn't want to leave him in the freezing cold, but I respected his decision to refuse a full rescue. As he got out into the snowy night, Buddy running behind him, I heard myself whisper a promise. "I'll see you again, Marcus." He didn't turn around, but I felt his shoulders relax a little when he heard my words. The days after that were full of meetings and work, but my thoughts went to Marcus often. I saw his steady eyes when I closed mine. I kept thinking about his strength, which came from hard fights, not money. Chloe noticed I was different. "You are thinking too much, Mom," she joked. I smiled a little. "Just thinking." Chloe tilted her small head, wise for her age. "About him, right? The man who helped me." My silence was the only answer. Chloe grinned. "He's different than other people. I like him a lot." I swallowed. "I like him too," I admitted. One evening I found myself driving alone again. The car was too fancy for the poor side of town. I saw a familiar shape near a fire barrel, Buddy sitting close by. I parked the car, got out, and walked up to him. Marcus looked up, surprised. "I thought you would forget me," he said. I shook my head quickly. "I don't forget important things." We stood there for a long time, the fire making crackling sounds. Then I took a big drink container from my coat. "Coffee," I said. "It's hot." Marcus smiled a little. "You drove all this way just to bring me coffee?" "Maybe," I replied softly. We shared the drink, passing the container back and forth between our cold hands. The snow fell thicker, making the city sounds quieter. I realized how strange it felt to stand in a dirty street with a homeless man and feel safer and more real than I often felt in my big, perfect office. Marcus never tried to charm me. He was just steady and real. I found myself wanting that simple honesty very much. For once, I was just a woman with cold hands and a good friend. But my world, the rich world, did not wait. People started talking about me, the powerful boss, seen with a strange man. My board members whispered. My workers guessed what was happening. When they asked me, I just dismissed them with cold words. But the gossip hurt me privately. Was I risking my great reputation? Why did I suddenly care so little about what people thought of me? Still, I couldn't stay away from him. Marcus had become a quiet, solid support in the confusing, wealthy storm of my life. One night, Chloe spoke to me seriously. "You like him, Mom," she said directly. I stopped moving. "He is very different." Chloe's smile was knowing. "Different is good sometimes." I shook my head, holding on to my old ideas. "He is not part of our world, Chloe." Chloe leaned forward. "Maybe our world is the problem, Mom." "You keep talking about our world like it's a bubble we can never leave," Chloe argued, her young voice full of a firm belief I hadn't heard before. "But what is our world, really? It's huge fancy house, quiet dinners, and lots of people who pretend to be nice. Marcus doesn't pretend. He is just real, Mom." When I was on the ground, he didn't care about my name or my family. He just helped a person who needed help. She looked me directly in the eye, and her stare was serious. I lowered my gaze, feeling like a little child being corrected. Chloe had a simple truth that cut through all my business complications. "I worry about him, Chloe," I confessed, my voice quiet. "I worry about people seeing us together. It could hurt my reputation, and it could hurt the company." Chloe sighed loudly, shaking her small head slowly. "Then you should worry about the wrong kind of people, Mom. If your company leaves because you help a good man, then maybe those people were never right for us to begin with." Her wisdom was surprisingly deep, and it made me stop and think. My whole life had been about protecting my image, but now I was questioning if that image was even worth saving. If the price of being a good person was losing some fake, rich friends, then maybe it was a price worth paying quickly. Chloe had given me a brave challenge. Choose between my company's old, cold rules and my new, warm heart. I knew right then that I had already made the choice. Her words stung me. They were not mean, but they were absolutely true. I realized my daughter saw something I was afraid to admit. Marcus was showing me a better way to live, a life focused on kindness, not just business. Meanwhile, Marcus struggled with his feelings. He kept my card, but he refused to use it. He didn't want my pity. He didn't want to be a charity case for a bored rich woman. Yet, when I appeared with coffee or just for a chat, he always let me stay. The kindness and warmth of his new life often felt like a dream that could end at any moment, leaving him back on the cold, broken pavement. He kept my business card with his ID, and sometimes he would pull it out and stare at it. It was like a map to a world he was not sure he was strong enough to stay in. He was afraid of being too comfortable, afraid of losing the tough strength he had needed to survive on the streets. He was afraid that the rich world would change him, making him cold and judgmental like the people he had seen on my board. "Are we just playing houseboy?" he would whisper to Buddy, scratching the dog's soft ears. "Is this just a holiday until she wakes up and realizes I don't belong here? That I have nothing to offer her but my past?" Buddy would just whine softly and look up at him with total loving loyalty. The dog seemed to understand the human fear of not being good enough. Marcus knew he had to let go of the past, but the streets had been his only real home for so long, and giving them up felt strangely like a huge betrayal of his former self. He often walked to the alley where he had found Chloe. He would sit there in the dark, breathing in the cold, old air, just to remember the hunger and the fear. He did this to stay grounded, to keep his simple honesty strong. He didn't want to forget what life was really like without money and power. He knew that if he forgot the dark, he wouldn't be able to truly help the people still stuck there. This ritual of remembering the hard times was his way of keeping his soul honest. Buddy wagged his tail happily every time, sensing the strange friendship forming. Marcus wondered if he was foolish for letting me get close, but a part of him didn't care. One evening, I asked him to visit the community center my foundation helped. "Come and see," I urged him gently. Marcus finally said yes. Inside, children were laughing. Families were eating hot food. I moved easily, smiling and talking to everyone. Marcus watched quietly, his chest feeling tight. He had been outside for so long. Seeing a room full of light and warmth felt painful to him. I saw his silence and walked over. "What are you thinking, Marcus?" I asked softly. His answer was rough and honest. "That I don't belong here at all." I touched his arm lightly. "You belong here more than anyone, Marcus." But not everyone was happy. Some rich donors frowned and whispered. "Why is he here?" one man asked, loud enough for Marcus to hear. Marcus's jaw tightened. I saw the look and reacted fast. "Because he is the reason my daughter is alive," I snapped, my voice loud and clear. The room became totally silent. Marcus froze, not used to anyone defending him. For a moment, he felt grateful and ashamed at the same time. "You didn't need to fight for me like that," he whispered to me later. I looked at him gently. Yes, I did need to. Silence came again, then Buddy broke it with a happy bark, jumping into Marcus's lap, as if saying everything was okay. I laughed, the sound surprising me. It was not a fake laugh for business. It was real, and it felt like fresh air after years of holding my breath. Marcus smiled faintly, and the great distance between our worlds felt very small right then. The next few months brought big changes. I spent less time in big business meetings and more time at the community center. serving soup and helping Marcus carry boxes. I changed my fancy clothes for warm, simple things. Chloe also started helping often, playing with the younger children whose lives were hard, like the people Marcus knew on the streets. Slowly, my business started to change too. Money was used for better things. New goals were set, not for more money, but for doing good things. For the first time in my job, I was not just chasing numbers. I was chasing meaning in my life, and Marcus was at the center of this new purpose. Marcus also changed a lot. He walked stronger and stood straighter. The tired, sad look in his eyes went away, replaced by a quiet calm. He never forgot the streets. He still walked the dark streets at night, checking on people, leaving blankets or food for them. I went with him once. My nice coat got dirty with smoke and dust. "This is not my world," I whispered, feeling strange. Marcus looked at me, a small smile on his face. "Maybe it should be your world now, Eleanor." I didn't argue. I really wanted it to be my world. Chloe became the person who connected us most, laughing with Marcus, leaning on him like he was family. I watched amazed as my daughter, who was usually careful with strangers, looked at Marcus with total trust and love. One evening, Chloe said it clearly. "He belongs with us, Mom." I blinked. I wanted to say no, to keep my safe life separate, but instead, I whispered the truth. "Yes, he does belong with us." The words shocked me because they felt more true than anything I had said in years. Marcus wasn't just a part of our lives. He was slowly becoming a part of our family. But Marcus still had doubts. One night, sitting on his small porch, he told me quietly, "I am still the man who lived under bridges. You are rich. Our worlds can't mix completely." I leaned against the railing next to him. The city lights sparkled in the river below. "Our worlds are already mixed," I replied softly. "And look at the good things we have built." Marcus turned to me, searching my eyes. "Why me, Eleanor?" My smile was small but steady. "Because when everyone else walked away from you, you stayed for my daughter." The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of trust, of hope, of something we weren't ready to name. By summer, we opened a new center, designed by Marcus. "No wasted money," he insisted. "No fancy floors, just warmth and dignity." I agreed right away. On opening day, I tried to give him the scissors for the ribbon cutting. Marcus shook his head. "This is not just for me." I leaned close. "It is now yours, Marcus." He cut the ribbon, and the crowd cheered loudly. Buddy barked happily, as if shouting that a new life had started. That evening, we sat by the river as the sun went down, painting the city gold. Marcus stared at the tall buildings that once seemed impossible to reach. "I never thought I would be here," he admitted. I tilted my head, looking at his face. "And now?" I asked gently. Marcus smiled a little. "Now, I think I belong here." I felt my chest tighten, a warm feeling I had never known before. I had built big companies and won many business fights, but this quiet moment next to him felt like my biggest victory. But some problems remained. Some rich donors threatened to stop giving money, saying I was letting feelings ruin my business judgment. A week later, I faced a small group of my most powerful investors in my big office. Mr. Harrison, an old, cold man who managed a lot of money, spoke first, his voice sharp and full of disapproval. "Eleanor, we respect your new charity work, but this man, Marcus, is a huge risk to our reputation. The papers are starting to ask questions about your judgment, and your attention is clearly not on the big business deals anymore." The other investors nodded quietly, their faces serious. I put my hands flat on the polished table, leaning slightly forward, meeting Harrison's icy stare with my own. "My attention is focused exactly where it needs to be," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "It is focused on purpose, not just profit. We have made more money than anyone needs. Now, we are using that money to build a bridge back to the community that supports us. Marcus is the person who understands the needs of that community better than anyone here." Harrison actually laughed, a harsh, dry sound. "A man who used to sleep on the street? You are letting your personal feelings and charity projects ruin a global company. We expect you to end this association and return your focus immediately. If you don't, we will pull all our money out of your company, Eleanor. That is a threat I promise you we will follow through with." The silence in the room was heavy, filled with the serious weight of $1 billion. I looked at the faces around the table, seeing their fear and their greed. Then, Let me make my answer very clear, I said, standing up tall. Marcus did something none of you would have done. He stopped to help my child. He acted with real humanity. If that simple act of kindness is enough to make you leave this company, then you are the ones with the problem, not me. You can take your money and go now. I will not compromise my moral compass for your stock portfolios. Good day to all of you. I stood strong. If they leave, we will find new, better partners, I told my team. I had once been afraid of losing my status. Now, I was only afraid of returning to a life without meaning. Marcus had given me that meaning, money used to protect me. Now, strangely, Marcus was my shield. On a quiet night, I walked with Marcus past the alley where everything had started. The streetlights still flickered. The ground was still broken. I shivered, remembering the terror of finding Chloe there. Marcus stood silently, Buddy close to his leg. It's funny, he said softly. This place destroyed my life once, and now it gave me everything. I slipped my hand into his. Sometimes the worst places hide the best new beginnings, I said. We stood there in the weak light, two lives that were totally different, now connected in a way neither of us could explain. We both realized that our lives were now completely different because we had chosen to build a bridge across the wide gap that separated us. I, the big boss, now found my deepest satisfaction in the small, real moments of helping others. Marcus, the former homeless man, now stood tall, using his hard-won knowledge to create something truly great for his community. We had traded the noise of the financial world for the quiet, important work of human connection. We had traded fake respect for real love and true purpose. One clear, cold morning, Eleanor and Marcus stood together outside the new community center, watching the workers finish the last touches on the front door. We should start a new program, Marcus suggested, looking around with a calm pride. A job training program for young people who were just like me. We can teach them building skills and how to survive on their own. I nodded immediately, my eyes shining with excitement. A great idea, Marcus. Let's call it the Second Chance Workshop. It's perfect. As we walked away, hand in hand, with Buddy trotting happily between us, I looked back at the large, warm building. It was more than a center. It was a symbol of what two totally different worlds could create when they stopped fighting and started working together. It was a physical reminder that life is not about avoiding the difficult parts, but about finding the kindness and the humanity that often live in the deepest shadows. I finally felt a peace that my old life of endless business deals had never given me. As children's laughter came from a nearby park, Buddy barked happily, his tail moving like a clock, marking the time of hope. I leaned my head against Marcus's shoulder, feeling the quiet strength I had once ignored. The loud city roared around us. Yet, in that moment, it felt calm and respectful. Our story started with fear, doubt, and not trusting each other. It ended here, with trust, dignity, and a love that changed everything I knew. And under that same flickering streetlight, I, Eleanor Vance, finally understood the truth. Money can buy comfort and nice things, but only humanity and kindness can buy a life that lasts forever.